name is Javier de la Cruz. Javier is the name of the saint, and de la Cruz means on the cross. So it means trust me.
I thought it was a place you would go to Mexico.
No, I just had a question. Who attended the last?
All
the last
four of us.
you guys, okay. Oh, you guys are the guy. All right,
There was
all
a
right.
few others, but
They didn't come
Okay.
back. They
All right.
like.
So we're the overachievers here, right?
I tried.
That's what the whole class is building good habits. No, I kind of mentioned it in the testimony, but I was just having breakfast. Just kind of want to let you know how I stumbled upon this. I was having breakfast with Pastor Martel, and he mentioned that he's reading his book and he's all excited about it and everything. And I said, "Oh, I've never heard of the book before." And then he said, "Yeah, I'll send you a link." And then he told me what you think, and I said, "Okay." So it's like in a couple of days, I started listening to the video. It was audible. I said, "Oh, I don't have to read it. I can just listen to it." And I said, "Great." So I started listening to it, and I said, after about an hour, I said, "Wow, it's really good stuff." So I told him I gave some feedback because I really like this. I think it really, it's going to help me out. So one of the things he mentioned, he said, "Hey, I have an idea. Why don't we have a class for it?" I said, "Okay." So I said, "Well, let's just put a class together on Thursdays." And that's why we're here today. But what it taught me to do is to be, I used to like exercise like very sporadically, like once a week, and then I would do it 3 times a week, and then I'd be once, and it was very inconsistent. A lot of things I was doing in my life were very inconsistent, so it helped me really focus in on doing things and becoming more effective, not only in my job, but just with daily, just simple things at home. So anyway, did anybody from the last test? Did anybody have any questions, or did you guys read the first 3 chapters? If you didn't,
I did.
if you didn't,
no, most of us didn't know we were supposed to read the first.
oh, okay. So what I did, that's the reason I put together a syllabus. So you'll know exactly what chapters to read in what class. So that way you can prepare.
I read the first one, but he pretty much
Went over it?
pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty good.
All right. So like I said, so it kind of lets you know. So today's class, you're supposed to read chapters 4 through 7, but if you didn't, that's okay. You can do that.
Well, that's what he said, but when I asked you Sunday, you told me 4 through 6.
I'm sorry, 4 through 7.
So I didn't.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I got a treat for you guys. I got a really good surprise for you guys, by the way. It's going to be an awesome class because I don't like to talk for like an hour and a half. I don't want to put you guys to sleep. No, so anyway, so the author, his name is James Clear. Again, I don't know too much about him, but then I started reading about his biography and everything, and that was pretty interesting.
Story.
Huh? His story? Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Almost died.
Right? Yeah, he almost
Where
died.
did you get the book?
If you read the beginning of the book, you
Introduction.
remember he got hit by somebody
baseball bat.
accidentally, baseball bat. And then, but ironically, though, that's what caused him to find a new direction in his life. And he probably wouldn't have achieved all these things unless that would have happened. So definitely. So what I decided was I was thinking about what can I do that's different? What can I do that not just come in here and teach and present and everything, but what is something that's really gonna make this kind of fun, right? So I got the idea, and I did this a while ago. I said, why don't I bring James Clear here? Why don't I let you know who he is and let you tell him his story? So that's what I did. So I found he has a lot of different YouTube videos, but I was looking through all of them, and I found a really good one that kind of tells a little bit about why he got into teaching about habits. And it's pretty cool because he goes through like the first 2 chapters of the information, and he gives really good examples on what he's used and how he's applied it to his life. and then how you can make, how community blood change your life too. Now keep in mind, this video is about 25 minutes long. It's pretty entertaining. Okay, but I would think about it. I was thinking about think about it. You're getting this information for free. You're getting to see it for free. It's a company that paid for him to speak at their company. I'm thinking they probably paid him $10,000, $15,000 just to speak for those 30 minutes. Right. So if you think about it like that, you're more likely to take it more serious. So I challenge you that when I play the video, that take some notes. Take some notes in the back of this. Did you get one of these? No. Let me go ahead. You just seal this with it. That's right. Goes over the outline. We're going to discuss. And as I was saying, he like the information. I mean, I thought about it that way. And sometimes if you just change the way you think about something, man, it'll change your whole perspective, and you'll have a whole new outlook on it. But I wanted to go around the classes. So there's only 5 of us here, and I just want to know one thing. What is your goal for taking this class or reading this book? You don't have to go into a big long explanation. I'm gonna go around and the reason I'm doing this, by the way, is so we can hold each other accountable, right? So we can show. So if somebody says something, my goal is to I don't know, learn how to bake a cake, or to be a better cook, or to be a better musician, or to learn a new language. We can throw that person accountable. Say, hey, how are you doing with that French class you're doing? How are you doing with whatever you're trying to achieve in life? So I'm going to start with you, Charmaine. What's your goal in taking this class? Just one thing.
Specific one? Wait, come back to
You want to get back to you? Okay. Yeah. All right, brother.
Like I mentioned last week, I've been in recovery for a long, long time.
Okay.
So that means you're constantly trying to better yourself. You're constantly changing, creating new habits, and dropping old ones. That's continuously. That's what recovery is all about. So I took it because it sounded like it's interesting that it could help me more to change it instead of just changing it on my own. It might have some information for me that I can implement what I already have going on. I'll give you a good example. I read last week. I drink water, but I can drink more. My daughter was here last summer, and she's a water drinker, and she has water in her hand all the time. So, and then it says in here, to establish a new behavior, be creative. I forget the exact words. But what I've done is I put water bottles in every single room in my house. So that makes it easier when you're in there, and when you're in between decisions, when you're not doing nothing, you just hit it. So that's what I want to put in. That's what I'm in the process of doing right now. To establish a better habit. Plus, drink more water anyway. Period. Whether it's summertime or not, I need to drink more water. Period. So that's a good habit.
All right. So that's fine. It's in the book. It says make it easy and make it attractive. Like if you want to start a new habit, if you have soda everywhere, if you have all kinds of Snickers and all that stuff around your house, it's going to be very difficult for you to maintain a new habit of just drinking water all the time. So it does address that. It's funny. It's going to talk about that on the video. You're going to like it. So all right, and then we'll give you a little more time. All right. What about you, ma'am? Like you said, getting rid of bad habits? Okay. Okay. To do more praise and worship consistently?
Different ways of worship.
Different ways of worship? Okay.
Like we were, back of alcohol, practice. And I'm thinking, yes, and I've been work. Instead of getting up with my Bible somewhere else, I'm not gonna,
Right.
put it off for later on in the day. Or just put it here the nightstand. Practice usually.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
More likely to do it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, again, always, and it's, remember what people are saying, so that way we can keep them accountable. Okay, how's that going with, keeping your Bible? How's that water drinking going? Yeah, that's important, because that's, I think that's, we create like a little support team. This, we're gonna be meeting for the next 5 weeks, and then at the next end of the 5 weeks, when we graduate, we bring those things up. Bring those things up. How's it going? And then there's no failure here. There's no success here. The fact that you're here, you're already successful. The fact that you decided to do this, that's the beginning of a rehab. They say sometimes the hardest thing is just showing up. That's true. They don't want to go out, man. It was hot out there, And then, but I'm going to show up and see what happens.
This is all a process anyway. You're not going to expect to drop all your bad habits and stuff.
No.
And create new habits and stuff. First of all, right off the top, they're doing something like here.
Yeah, it takes, even bad habits take a while to form. People don't think about that. So it's not like you become a addict the next day and drink. No, it's a slow process. You got to be consistent. You got to be dedicated.
Yes.
You got to get around people who are.
Exactly.
Think about the things you have to do to form a bad habit. You got to do it, right? You got to be consistent. You got to be dedicated. And you got to be around people who love to do it. It's the exact same steps you take to form a good habit.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I think bad habits are probably perform quicker than good habits, though. Because sometimes the effects of forming a good habit, a bad habit, is the result or the feeling of it is a lot quicker. Like if you drink alcohol, it might not, but maybe in the second time you might get a quicker effect. Well, compared to like if you go running for a couple of days, you're probably not going to feel that great. So it's going to take time to develop that good habit of running compared to that habit. So that's why they're so different.
It's harder to drive yourself. You have to do.
And Chardonnay, you figured?
okay, mine is learning Spanish.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, don't write it down. I'm just kidding.
No, everybody heard of Spanish.
Yeah, we gotta hold.
You got to keep her accountable.
Yeah, we gotta hold you.
Right. Hey, even a couple of sentences.
Well, no, I mean, I can do a few sentences. I mean, I can hold a little bit of a conversation, but just not that great.
All right. Learn Spanish. Hey, it's Spanish. Okay. Learn some Spanish, like conversational Spanish, or
Yeah,
okay.
conversational. So I got like the grammar part.
What's the reason why you want to learn Spanish?
To be able to use it, not just in work, but church and everything else. Communicate with.
Okay. School and people not good. Oh, okay. And that makes you more valuable person. And learning a new language actually opens up a whole new world too. You start to understand so many different things just by knowing a different language. What about you, brother? What's the reason why I'm a people person? Okay.
You get along well with people. Stepping here to serve, being a servant, serve the community. Lately, I go with the brother in line, go too much, certain individuals. feel like struggling. Took me 8 years to go where I live now. Those, just in 5 minutes, story.
Right.
That's what I'm struggling with. Or misunderstanding.
You kind of just maintain all the hard work that you did to get to the point, just continue to move forward. Oh, okay. All right.
That's happened a few times, just misunderstanding. Just kind of sense all of it. That's right.
We'll keep you in prayer for that too. Yeah. And then, here's last. Why do you want to take the class? Because I'm teaching it? That's a very good reason. Okay.
No, well, for the last 10 years, I've been by myself, pretty much 24/7. So I know I'm a good person, but now I'm going to visit my family in North Carolina. So I want to be as awesome as person as I possibly can be.
Oh, okay. Amen. Yeah, all right. That's a good reason you want to give your best self.
Incorporate living, being, around people again without trying. Like I say, I was like, geez, like 2 years with me involved. And I'm going over there to his house, so I don't want to step my toes in there, but I've been living there for a couple of years with him, and he's got a new girlfriend, and he's got other friends with him, something over there, 6 dogs, 2 cats, and 2 birds. I have a big family I'm going home to, and by myself for a long time.
You're on your way. You're doing the right things. You're going to church. You're going with me to feed my starving children. It was your
Church is
first
something
time.
new for me also. I
I know that was stepping out of your comfort zone. So, so you're doing the, keep up the good work because you are doing things you're supposed to do.
I'm trying to stay on that path.
Yeah, that's one day at a time. Small little.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, all little steps. You don't have to do everything all in one day. Yeah, I just wanted to share why my goal is for the classes. Is my goal that each of you, it's just 2 things, including myself, is that you start a new habit, a positive habit in your life, just one. If you do 5 or 6, that's fine, but just one. You can just do one and say, okay, I got this out of that, man. It was all worth it. And then the second thing is, I know we all have bad habits that you omit a bad habit from your life. Just one, regardless of what it is. So those are my personal goals, and that's my goal for you guys. Anything I can do to support you in that, definitely will. So I'm going to go ahead and start this video. Like I said, it's going to go over it's about 25 minutes long. But before I do, I can do a quick prayer, or unless somebody else want to volunteer for your class. I'll do it. Dear Lord, we just thank you for this beautiful day here as we gather with my brothers and sisters, Lord, to first and foremost to glorify you, Lord, and teaching us new things, Lord, that we may grow closer to you, Lord, to be more disciplined, to be more consistent in the things that you want us to do, Lord, in life, Lord, to be a better father, better brother, be a cook, musician, to teach, just to be a better person overall, Lord. We just thank you for this opportunity, Lord. Lord, your word says, like, if we lack wisdom, Lord, to ask of you, Lord. So I ask that you give us an anointing, the knowledge that we need to understand these concepts to, again, to glorify you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let's get to the point. See there. Oh, that's the wrong one. We're about to watch some tea. Hold on one second. Go to the one YouTube. Please. There it is.
Constantly fighting against those four.
Yeah, he was hired by this company, and then the first thing he's going to talk about is how this bicycle team. He tells this little story about a bicycle team that he did these really minute changes to improve their team. It's pretty interesting. So, let me make
Let me tell you a story. So it's a story about a strategy, an approach, philosophy, one that I've been thinking a lot about. And it starts with a guy that maybe you haven't heard of. His name's Dave Brailsford. And to set the stage for this, I want to tell you a little bit about British cycling. So about 15 years ago, early 2000s, British cycling hires this guy named Dave Brailsford. And at that point, the last 100 years, British cycling had been incredibly mediocre. They had won a single gold medal back in 1908. They had never won a Tour de France, which is the premium race in cycling, the premier race. And so they hired this guy named Dave Brailsford to change that. And in fact, at the time, they were so mediocre that when they went to buy a new set of bikes, they're going to get like 200 from a top manufacturer in Europe. They actually weren't even given quotes from the manufacturer because they didn't want other teams to see the British riders using their gear for fear that it would hurt sales. And so they brought Brailsford in, and they said, "What's your plan for changing this?" And he said, "Well, I believe in this philosophy that I call the aggregation of marginal gains." The way that he described it is the 1% improvement in nearly everything that you do. So they started with a bunch of things that you would expect a cycling team to start with. So for example, they put slightly lighter tires on the bike. They got a more ergonomic seat for the riders to sit on. They had their outdoor riders wear indoor racing suits because they were lighter and more aerodynamic. They had each rider wear a biofeedback sensor so they could see how they would respond to training and then adjust it appropriately for the person. But then they did a bunch of things you wouldn't expect a cycling team to do. So they split tested different types of massage gels to see which one led to the best type of muscle recovery. They taught each rider how to wash their hands to reduce the risk of infections. They wouldn't get a cold after and get sick. They also figured out the type of pillow that led to the best night's sleep for each rider and then brought that on the road with them to hotels whenever they were competing. And Brailsford said, if we can actually do this, right, if we can execute all these little 1% improvements, then I think we can win a Tour de France within 5 years. He ended up being wrong. They won it in 2 years. And then they repeated again the third year with a different rider. And then after a 1 year break, they won 2 more. So they've won 4 out of the last 5 now, down to British cyclists. But it was at the Olympics in London in 2012 when this kind of strategy really came to fruition. They won 70% of the gold medals available. And so this idea that small improvements, tiny habits, little choices are not just a cherry on top of our performance, not just like a nice thing to have, but actually can be the key that unlocks significant success. That's an idea that I want us to carry with us as we go through the rest of this presentation. And one way to think about it is just kind of basic math. Like if you just look at the numbers, if you were able to improve by 1% each day for an entire year, and those gains compound, you would end up 37 times better at the end of the year. And if you were to get 1% worse, you would whittle yourself almost all the way down to 0. And what's interesting here is that everybody wants a transformation, right? Everybody wants a radical improvement, one rapid success. But we fail to realize that small habits and little choices are transforming us every day already. That these times when you make a choice that's slightly better, slightly worse, a little mistake or a small error, 1% better, 1% worse, that these things compound over time. And habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. And so if you can learn to master those, then you can make time work for you rather than get against you, right? Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy. And so throughout the rest of this presentation, I want to talk about how we can do that. Today, I'm going to teach you how to build the habits that you need to get the results that you want. And in order to do this, I'm going to take you through a framework for building better habits. And I'm also going to share a personal example of how I use this. So my writing habit. If you don't know, I write at jamesclear.com. I write about how to build better habits, improve performance, and generally live better. Over 1 million people visit the site each month. There's over 400,000 subscribers on the weekly email newsletter. And it all came out of a simple writing habit. So, for the rest of this talk, there are 4 stages of habit formation. I'm going to take you through each of those 4. All right, so the 4 stages are noticing, wanting, doing, and liking. Noticing, wanting, doing, and liking. You cannot perform a habit or take an action if you do not notice something. I need to see a coffee cup sitting on the side in order to pick it up first. But it's not in my realm of knowledge. If I don't know it exists, I can't do anything about it. But then I need to want it. I need to want to drink coffee and pick it up. If I don't desire it or crave it, then I will not take the action. Then there's doing. You actually do the habit. And then I need to enjoy the reward. I need to enjoy drinking the coffee to repeat it again. So noticing, wanting, doing, and liking. Let's talk about each one. And as we do this, I'm going to give you a little bit of research about why it works. I'm going to give you practical action steps, at least one for each, that you can use to implement in your life. So, one of my favorite things about noticing, one of my favorite strategies for discussing it, it's called implementation intentions. And there are hundreds of studies on this, over 100 studies on implementation intentions, if you feel like geeking out and getting into the research. But if not, I'll just give you the simple version here. So one of my favorite studies is about exercise. And they had 3 cohorts in this study. So they have the first cohort, they said, I just want you to track how often you work out for the next few weeks, right? So that's the standard cohort, the control group. Second group, they said, we want you to track how often you exercise. We're also going to give you a motivational speech presentation, talk about the benefits of heart health, why habits are good for you, and so on. So this is the motivated group, right? The third group, they got the same presentation, so they're equally motivated, and then they did one thing differently. Now, one thing was they filled out this sentence. So during the next week, I will partake in at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on this day, in this time, at this time, in this place, right? They specifically stated their intention to implement the behavior. So implementation intention. Here's what happened. First group, 1 out of 3 of them worked out. Second group, motivation did nothing. As soon as they left the researcher's facility the next day, they weren't motivated. It's like reading a book or watching a YouTube or listening to a motivational speaker, and then you forget all about it 20 minutes later. But the third group, the group that had a specific plan for how they were going to implement the behavior, 9 out of 10 of them worked out. So you can increase your odds of success 2 to 3x just by having a specific plan. And this is the insight. Many people think that they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. They think that they need to get more motivated, that they need willpower in order to execute on a habit. If I just felt like writing, if I just felt like meditating, if I felt like working out, then I would do it. But in fact, they don't have a plan for it. So they wake up each day thinking, I wonder if I'll feel motivated to write today. I wonder if I'll feel motivated to work out today. But instead, you can take the decision making out of it by explicitly stating when, where, and how you want to implement the habit. So here's how I did this with my writing habit. I decided that on November 12th, 2012, which was a Monday, if you check, that was going to be the first day that I published an article, and I was going to publish every Monday and every Thursday. That was my implementation intention. That was my specific plan. Didn't matter how good or how bad it was. It didn't matter how long or how short it was. It didn't matter how I felt about it. If all I could do was write 3 good sentences that day, then that was getting published. But I did that, and I did it for 3 years, and that was how the site grew. It was just that core habit that drove the growth. So you need to give your goals a time and a place to live in the world, right? Give them space on your calendar. Now, it sounds easy to say, let's just start a plan. Let's, write down exactly what you should do, and then maybe you'll follow through on it. But of course, we all know that there are challenges that arise. It's not quite that easy. So here's a little strategy that I like to use to make sure you can come up with a better plan of action. And it's called a failure pre-mortem. So the way that it works is you think about the habit, the project, the goal, whatever the most important thing is that you want to work on. And I want you to imagine, fast forward 6 months from now, you failed. And then tell the story of why you failed. What happened? What challenges did you encounter? What was it that took you off course? When I do this with businesses, sometimes we call it the kill the company exercise, because everybody just sits around and thinks about ways to kill the company in the next 6 months. And once you have all that stuff laid out on the table in front of you, you can start to make better choices about how to develop a plan. You can start to have if-then plans. So not only do I want to exercise for 20 minutes on Monday at 5 p.m., but also if I do not exercise because I have to take my kid to practice or whatever, then Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. I will go in, right? You can have ways to adjust for these challenges. So core point about noticing is it's hard to change something if you're not aware of it. And one way to become more aware of the opportunity to take action is to have a specific plan for when it's going to happen. All right, stage 2, wanting. One of the most overlooked drivers of habits and human behavior is our physical environment. So let me tell you a quick story. This comes from Harvard. So these researchers at Harvard went to Massachusetts General Hospital, and they had a very interesting question. They wondered if they could change people's behavior without talking to them at all, without giving them anything to do, without trying to motivate them, but how can we shift their behavior without asking them to do anything? And so this is a drawing of the cafeteria at the hospital. This is drawn to scale. So the shaded pink boxes are areas where there are refrigerators that have soda in them. The two black boxes on the side are water, right? Refrigerators with water, and then all the other tables are food in the cafeteria. Now, they made a few little changes. They turned the pink boxes into ones that also had water. Okay, so they just added, but these refrigerators still have soda available. They just added water to it. And then they had a bunch of those little rolling carts, and they put those around the cafeteria too. So you can switch back and forth and see that. They just added a couple things. Now, what happened? They didn't talk to anybody, they didn't do anything, but over the next 6 months, people drank 25% more water and 11% less soda. And it's interesting because if you went up and talked to anybody sitting there and you asked them, why are you drinking this? Everybody would have a reason. They'd say, well, I felt like drinking soda, I felt like drinking water. But in fact, many of them chose to drink it simply because they were presented with it. And this is an interesting insight about our desires. Your environment often influences them. We want things simply because they're an option, right? Simply because they are in front of us at the time. You walk into any living room in America, where do all the couches and chairs face? They all look at the TVs. Like, what is that room designed to get you to do? We wonder why we sit and watch so much TV. And it's because our desires are shaped in that way. So thankfully, you don't have to be the victim of your environment. You can also be the architect of it. You can decide to design something to make your good behaviors easier and your bad behaviors harder. So when it comes to habits, you want to practice your guitar more frequently, put it right in the middle of your living room so you run across all the time. If you want to read more, when you make your bed in the morning, take the book you want to read, put it on top of the pillow, you come back that night, pick it up, read a few pages, go to sleep. For me, I used to buy apples all the time, and then I would put them in the crisper at the bottom of the fridge, and they would sit there for 3 weeks and go bad, and I'd finally open it up and see them again, get mad, and then eventually I bought a bowl and put it right in the middle of the counter, and so then when I buy apples, I put them there, I see them every day, and now I eat them all the time. Many of our desires are simply shaped because we have an environment that shapes us in that way. So the moral of the story is I've never seen someone stick to positive habits in a consistent fashion in a negative environment. Maybe you can overpower it once or twice. Maybe you can have the willpower to do the right thing on one day. But if you're constantly fighting against those forces, it's going to be very hard to follow through. So don't rely on willpower and self-control. It's a lot easier to stick to better habits when you're presented with better options. All right, so what does this mean for writing? So one, I leave my phone in the other room, which is in the other room right now because I'd like to show it to you, so that's kind of a pain. But I also, on my home screen, have no applications. So you can't see anything. I have to swipe over and then tap into certain folders to get to social media. It takes at least 3 clicks for me to get to any social media app. It's not that big of a deal, but it just prevents me from being mindless and just pulling it up and tapping on Instagram because it's right in front of me. And then I also started something this last year, which has been really effective. Every Monday, my assistant will log me out of all social media and reset the passwords, and then not give them to me until Friday. And then on Friday, I get the passwords and get to enjoy social media again. Also, I am going on vacation for the next 2 weeks, so if you see me posting on Tuesday, I only hear about it because I'm allowed to be on there. I'm not locked out for this week. Right? So the core idea here is that you want to put more steps between you and the bad behaviors and fewer steps between you and the good behaviors. And it is far easier to stick to good habits if you are living in an environment that is inclined to push you in that direction. All right, stage 3, doing. So quick story here. There's this professor at the University of Florida. He's retired now. He was a photography professor. His name's Jerry Ullsman. And at the beginning of the semester, he would have this film photography class, and he'd bring the class in, and he would split them into 2 groups. He said, everybody on this side of the room, you are going to be graded on the quantity of work that you do this semester. And everybody on this side of the room, you are going to be graded on the quality of work that you do this semester. And he further explained it by saying that for your film photography, you're going to be responsible for having 100 pictures. If you do 100 photos over the course of the semester, that'll be an A. If you do 90, it'll be a B. If you do 80, it'll be a C, and so on. So it's quantity. For this group, you only have to produce 1 photo, but it has to be the most perfect photo that you can make, the best photo that you can make. An interesting thing happened. At the end of the term, all the best grades came from the quantity group, not from the quality group. And what ended up happening was that while people were busy experimenting, making mistakes, learning how to, play with composition and so on, they would come across a really great photo. And while the quality group was busy theorizing about what perfection would look like and how to take the perfect photo and not actually honing their skills, they ended up only making something mediocre or average. And the important insight here, especially for habits, is that in the beginning, the most important thing is just to shut up and put your reps in. Just make sure that you hone the skill, right? And you can start to think of it, the way that I like to think of it is that any outcome that you wish to achieve is just a point along the spectrum of repetitions. So if you have few reps to more reps, and you can imagine an easy goal, moderate goal, a hard goal, the more reps that you put in, the more likely you are to achieve that goal. So maybe point A is, let's take fitness, squatting 100 pounds. Point B is squatting 200. Point C is squatting 300. Maybe you need to put in 100 reps or 1,000 reps to get to point A. Maybe it's 5,000 to get to point B. Maybe it's 10,000 to get to point C. And this is actually very similar to what I saw with my writing habit. So after 6 articles at 100 subscribers, after 23, 1,000, after 96, 34,000, 177, 100,000, 243, and so on. And every rep that I put in, every article that I published was something that was moving me closer to the next outcome on that spectrum. But you can't get around the fact that the repetitions matter. So every outcome is just a point along the spectrum. And this brings us to an interesting point, which is that if getting your reps in is incredibly important, then that means learning how to start is incredibly important, because each repetition, really any consistency with the habit, is just an exercise in getting started each day. If you can get started over and over again, then that's what consistency is. So you can make it as easy as possible to start. I want to give you a little strategy for doing that. I like to call it the 2-minute rule. Now, this is adapted. So David Allen has a 2-minute rule for productivity. And his rule is that if it takes 2 minutes, just do it now. So like throwing in the laundry or washing a dish or calling somebody back, it takes 2 minutes or less, just do it right away. Don't plan it, don't wait, just do it now. Now, for many of the habits and behaviors that we want to perform, they're going to take longer than 2 minutes. If you go to the gym, you're not going to work out for just 2 minutes. But any habit can be started in less than 2 minutes, whether it's writing, working out, meditating, anything. And so the goal here is that you want to optimize for the beginning of the task. You want your habits to act as an entrance ramp to a bigger routine. One of my favorite examples of this, Twyla Tharp, great choreographer and dancer. She said that she had a 2-hour workout routine that she did every morning, but the habit was not the workout routine. The habit was she would wake up, walk down to the street, and then hail a cab. And that was the only thing she focused on. And as long as she hailed the cab and got in the car, she knew that she was going to end up at the gym and then do the rest of the workout. So she put all of her energy into starting. Now, what I like to say is you should optimize for the starting line, not the finish line, right? So often when we think about habits, goals, routines, achievements, it's all about the milestone. We think about how much weight we want to lose, how much money we want to earn, how many subscribers we want to have. It's all fixed on the finish line. But instead, if you can optimize for the starting line, make it as easy as possible to get started and get your reps in, often the outcomes just come as a natural result. Okay, stage 4, liking. So the only reason that we repeat behaviors is because we enjoy them, because we like the reward. If we don't enjoy the experience along the way, we're unlikely to stick with it. And that means that you need to figure out ways to bring a reward into the present moment, because good habits have a problem. And that problem is that for good habits, the immediate consequence is there. There's a cost that happens in the moment, but the reward is often delayed. If I go to the gym now, it's cost me time and energy and effort, but the reward is I'll be fit 3 months from now or not get sick 10 years from now or so on. The reward is delayed. Bad habits are often the reverse. If I eat a donut right now, the benefit is it tastes great and I get a hit of sugar and it's awesome. And the consequence is delayed, right? I get overweight 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now, or so on. So you need to figure out how to bring the reward into the present moment to stick to a good habit. And someone else who's going to be speaking here, Seth Godin, had a very nice little quote about this, which is the best way to change long-term behavior is with short-term feedback. And one way to think about that is that long-term behaviors, sticking with writing for years on end or going to the gym and so on, they have those delayed consequences. So you need a way to enjoy it in the moment. All right. There are many ways to do this, but I'm just going to share one today. I like to call it the Seinfeld strategy. And the story is from Jerry Seinfeld, famous comedian. Early in his career, he's speaking at a comedy club. He's presenting or performing that night. And this guy named Brad Isaac is opening for him. And backstage, Brad Isaac catches Seinfeld and he said, Mr. Seinfeld, huge fan of yours. Do you have any tips for a young comic? Do you have any recommendations for how to be better? And Seinfeld thought for a second. He said, well, The secret to being a better comedian is to write better jokes. And the secret to writing better jokes is to writing every day. So here's what I think you should do. Get a wall calendar where you can see every day of the year mapped out on it. And then any day that you do your task of writing jokes for 15 minutes, I want you to just put an X on that day. And you'll have a couple false starts here and there, but at some point you're going to get a little bit of a chain going, right? You get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days in a row. And at that point, your only goal becomes to don't break the chain. Doesn't matter how good or how bad the jokes are. Doesn't matter if it makes it into your material. Just don't break the chain. And what's interesting about this is that by measuring your progress, you get an immediate reward in the moment, right? The reward of like having a great stand-up routine 40 days from now or 40 weeks from now or whatever is not, it's so delayed that you need something in the moment that makes you feel good. So if you do those 15 minutes, you can cross that off. It's a way to get an immediate hit, a little bit of a reward by tracking it. Now, I like to add one more thing to this, which is never miss twice. So many people, they'll get a chain going and then they fall off track and they feel bad about it. They feel like, oh, I ruined it. I had this great thing. Now it's over. The streak is gone. But what you find when you look at top performers is not that they don't make mistakes. They make mistakes just like everybody else, but they can just get back on track more quickly. And in fact, if you could just adhere to this one rule, never miss twice, then you would, even if you fell off track every single time after you got back on track, you still would do it 50% of the time. And so this basic strategy is very useful. And I've seen people use the Seinfeld strategy for, working out. I used it for tracking how often I was writing. Every Monday, every Thursday. I didn't want to break the chain. I have videographer friends who every day that they do 30 minutes of video processing, that's their X. So you can adapt it for almost anything. All right, so the 4 stages: noticing, wanting, doing, liking. Now, I'd like to close by talking about why habits are so important. And to do that, I want to share a little story about the ship of Theseus, which is this ancient Greek parable story about this ship that goes into Athens, Greece, and parks in the dock. And as it's there, it's used year after year. Some of the boards start to wear away, some of them start to go bad. And so whenever one board is bad, they take the board out and change it and put a new one in. This process continues for 25 or 30 years until every board that is on the ship has been changed out for a new one. And philosophers for centuries have asked, is this the same boat? Is this the same thing that was there before? Is both entirely the same and entirely new? And I would say that your habits can be the same way. We often fear that in order to achieve something new, to become someone new, we have to abandon everything that we are. But in fact, that's not how it works. Change can happen plank by plank, board by board, habit by habit. And gradually, you can become someone new. With consistency and repetition, you can actually change not only your results, but actually your identity. And the reason that this is true is because the more evidence that we have for a belief, the more likely we are to believe it. So if you go to church every Sunday for 20 years, you believe that you are religious. If you study Spanish every Thursday night for 20 minutes, you believe that you are studious. The actions that you take provide evidence for who you are. And it's not that habits matter more necessarily on an individual basis. Each moment in life matters. But what ends up happening is that over the broad span of time, things that you do once or twice fade away, and things that you do time after time, day after day, week after week, accumulate the bulk of the evidence for what you believe about yourself. And so every action that you take is actually a vote for the type of person that you want to become. If you want to become someone new, then you can take a new action and begin to accumulate evidence for that identity, for that belief about yourself. And that the more votes that you cast, the more likely you are to win the election. You don't need to be unanimous. You don't have to be perfect all the time. You just need to have the body for it, right? So true change is actually not behavior change. It's not results change. It's not process change. It's identity change. The goal is not to read a book, it's to become a reader. The goal is not to write a book or write an article, it's to become a writer. The goal is not to run a marathon, it's to become a runner, to become a type of person, to develop an identity. And the way to being something or becoming someone is through doing something. So every time you sit down to write, every time you practice that habit, you are being a writer. Every time you play a sport, you're being an athlete. Every time you practice painting or music or whatever, you're being an artist. Your identity emerges out of the habits that you have. And so here's the secret to this talk. It's not just about getting you to make small changes. It's not just about putting a book on your pillow or putting an apple on the counter. It's actually about getting you to believe something new about yourself, something possible about yourself. And habits are not only the method through which we achieve external measures of success, like losing weight or earning more money or meditating and reducing stress. They are also the path through which we achieve internal change and actually become someone new. They're the path through which we forge the identity that we have, the deepest beliefs we have about ourselves, our sense of self. And so if you can change your habits, you can change your life. Thank you.
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need to know. No, that was a lot of information. I actually watched like a couple of times, but it really, you know, if you're reading the book, and when you're reading the book, it's a lot of information. So the reason I mentioned that is because again, there's a lot of strategies, techniques to do anything, but what I want you to do when you go home and after you watch the video and you take your notes is think of one or two things that he talked about or that you read in the book and implement them right away. You know, don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't you know, just do it. Like you said, the more you do something, the better you're going to become at it. Okay, so like one of the things I got out of the study is when you mentioned the thing about the I think they gave 3 different classes, 3 different groups. One of them they gave a motivational speech, and then they told them to go ahead and exercise. The other one they just told them to exercise. And one says, I want you to pick a specific day and time to exercise. The one who picked a specific time of day actually end up doing more than the other ones. It's kind of like, I mean, I've been guilty of it. I'm sure you guys have too. That when you come to church, you hear this awesome sermon, great information, and it's wow, it's great, you know. But you go outside and you go live your normal life, and nothing changes because we didn't implement any of the information that was given to us. So one of the things I started to do is I like computers. I do it on my laptop, and I have a calendar on there. And every day I have in the morning from 8 a.m. You know, go take a walk. You know, Tuesday, Thursday, go to the gym with this weights. But I already have it planned out, and it does make a difference. So you mentioned something about you want to do the Spanish. Again, I don't know what your strategy is to that, but in order to start doing that, the first thing I'm gonna do is buy a book. They have a lot of apps on Babbel. Babbel's a good one, by the way. I don't know if you but pick a specific day and time that you're gonna start doing something, and don't overwhelm yourself. Like I said, don't say I'm gonna do 2 hours. I'm gonna do 2 hours. I'm gonna say no. Say I'm gonna dedicate 30 minutes or 15 minutes. And then another thing he talked about is the book. He talked about stacking. So sometimes some of the things we want to do aren't very enjoyable or we don't really want to do them. So what you do is, if there's something that you already enjoy to do every day, like my thing is I can't wait to have my first coffee, my first drink of coffee in the morning. So I'm like, man, I can't wait. So what I've done is to say, as soon as I have my coffee, I'm going to go ahead and read like 10 minutes of scripture. So that's a trigger. That's what he was talking about. That lady, she had to do a 2-hour workout for dancing. He goes, hey, as long as I can go outside and get the calf, you know, that's gonna trigger me to go ahead and do whatever else I need to do. And it's so funny though. Again, I didn't plan this. We didn't know when I asked you guys that question about what your goal was. It's amazing how most of the things he talked about were things that you guys talked about. I mean, he brought up the Spanish class. He brought up the water thing. She even brought up when she mentioned she wanted to be more faithful in her praise and worship. That to make sure you have a book next to your bed. I mean, it was funny how this came up, and this was not planned. You know, it's not like I called him up and say, hey, make sure you talk about this or that. It was totally random, so that was pretty awesome. Okay, in here, in your red folder here, there's and you guys can do this at home. Did you want? Oh, yeah. For the art. Right. So. Okay, there's a sheet in there, and we have some time. It's called the habit scorecard, and it's like the first sheet looks like this. It's a blanket. What it is these are not. It's not asking you what habits you want to change. And first one, habit scorecard. Got it? Yeah, because I feel fine now.
Oh.
I'll tell you guys, but I'm just giving you an example.
Okay.
So this is your guys' homework. So what you want to do is fill out this habit scorecard as much as possible. Now, what it is basically it just wants to make you aware of all the habits, the good habits, the bad habits, and then even the neutral habits that you have. And it's not about I want to change this habit. No, it's not talking about that. It's just what it's saying is think about what you do on a daily basis, from when you get up in the morning until all the way at night. And then like in the morning I get up, okay, I listen to alarm, get up at 7 a.m. Okay, that's one. The second thing I do, I go to the restroom, brush my teeth. And then it talks about on the right side, it says if it's a good habit, you put a plus. Okay. And if it's a bad habit, you put a minus sign. Like a bad habit might be watching a lot of TV. I watch TV for 2 hours a day. So that would be a negative. That's one of mine. You guys gotta keep, I watch too much TV. I gotta stop watching a lot of TV. And then you put a negative to the bad. But if it's not either bad or good, it's kind of like neutral, or you don't know how to rank it, just put an equal sign. Okay. And then, like I said, the best way to fill this out is just think about what your daily routine normally is. You get up in the morning, go drink water, whatever it is you do, take a shower, drink orange juice, go grab a donut, whatever it is, just be honest. Just put it there. So that way you're aware of what's going on in your life. And then we'll go over this next week a little bit more. All right. Okay. And the second assignment is, and it's if you go to not the first page, the second page of the syllabus. Yeah, the one that's stapled.
Second page?
Yeah, second page. It'll say chapter 5. It'll say second class, read chapter 4 through 7. Okay, and if you look at chapter 5, right? Okay, the very last one. He talked about this, and then I want you to, for the next 3 minutes, fill this out. It says, and this is for your new habit that you want to do. It says, Okay. So I'm sorry, the third one, where it says chapter 5, it'll say, I will this behavior at this time, at this location. Okay, I want you to fill that out right now. Yeah, the chapter 5, it says, the best way to start a new habit, implementation, intention. It says, I will, and then you put that behavior you want to start. I want to read the Bible for 10 minutes a day. I want to walk a mile. Whatever it is you want, you want to start. Yeah, just go ahead. Yeah, that's yours. Just write it there. So I will. Location. I will go to the park at my desk. At your home, wherever it is that you want to do it. Like some people like to go read at a coffee shop, so I'll read 10 minutes a day at this time at my bedroom. Yeah, it has to be the bedroom.
If it's something you want to change, wherever you go, I don't have a label where I'm going to be at. It's wherever I'm at. There's a certain behavior I have with people, and I don't want that no more. So it's wherever I go. It's not. I don't have a certain location, but
is there like a new, not
It
something
could be
you
a
want?
church, it could be wherever we go, it's store, it's a gym, anywhere, where we go.
No, it's, what he's talking about is there a new behavior that you want to start doing to prove yourself? And not so much to quit a habit, but something new you want to do. You know, to learn something new,
Oh, I thought we were doing both.
oh, we're doing this one right now, just on the positive end.
Oh, this is on the positive.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I got you.
yeah,
All right, okay.
yeah.
All right.
So,
okay.
so like, for example, we, like you said, the person speaking Spanish.
All right,
So
okay.
mine is,
But I wanna have better out, better habit.
better out. Okay, and what can you do to learn? What can you do to have a better attitude? What things can help you have a better attitude? You know, like praying more, reading the Bible more, just having fellowship, meeting with a friend, you know, going to a certain Bible study more. You know, think about what things can help you with that, and then write it down here. In order for me to fellowship more, I'm going to come to, you know, the Bible study, men's Bible study twice a week. Because, you know, something like that. Because remember he was talking about that it's important that we don't just say it. Like, man, I'm really motivated by this. That was a great sermon. I'm really gonna start. I want to, you know, I'm gonna apply for that job. I'm gonna start to learn something new so I can get that new job. Okay, just saying that ain't gonna do nothing. I said no. Every Monday and Tuesday, I'm gonna do some more research on this particular career, so I can start preparing for it. That's what I mean. Yeah. So it's just different for everybody. Everybody has different.
Next week, you want to be 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah. Next week. And then 8, 9, and 10, you have your list of all your habits. All right, this all that happens for the day. That's what your daily routines are. So that way you can look at it and say, oh wow, man, I didn't know I was doing that. Because when you start fighting that, you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know I did that. I'm wasting so much time here. But until it's on paper and you can see it, you really don't know. You know, wow, why did I stay up so late watching so much TV? Wow, why do I only brush my teeth once a day? You know, so the little things. But then until you see it, then you say, oh my goodness, I better do something about that. You know, but it's not all bad. I got some pretty good at it. All right. So yeah, just those two things. That way you're not overwhelmed with everything, and then just read the other chapters. But I wanted to get you guys' feedback. If we meet next week, did you guys want to do another video, or you guys want to? Was that helpful, or you just want to go into the study? I want to get your feedback on this. Okay.
Kind of helps there.
Kind of re-emphasizing, use and everything. Yeah, no, I think then he has the visuals, pointing out the things, explains everything. And like I said, you don't have to stop here. I mean, if you have access to YouTube, you can just look up his name, James Spear. He's got other videos that go on about the show. All right, so it's all right, 7 o'clock, you good? All right. Any questions about anything? No? Good?
You can teach your thinking.
Oh, no, I'm learning with you guys. Yep. Okay.
Just this hour helped out a lot.
What was that?
Just this hour helped out a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not about how long it is, it's how much how much can we learn, but not learn from, but implement it. Start to do it. It don't mean anything if you're gonna start doing something about it. The reason I wanted you guys to verbalize what our goal was, so we could keep each other accountable. I mean, I kind of memorized most of what you guys said.
Yeah.
See each other at church and say, hey, you can ask, did you have that Spanish class? You belong to a college, right? You go to
Well, I have my minor in Spanish. The problem is conversation.
a conversation. Yeah,
We
okay.
don't use it.
You gotta go get some Spanish friends there.
I know. I have some.
Go work.
We'll talk to you.
You gotta go work. You gotta go work at a Filiberto's part time. Not right now.
I just get
wouldn't it?
nervous and I fail to use it, so then I end up forgetting. So.
But you guys, you know
I
Spanish.
get rusty, yeah, but you don't use it.
Yeah, it does. Well, I'm.
That was my first language.
Yeah.
But not now. Not now. I can't speak it now. I speak English better than that. That was my first language. I didn't learn until I started going to school.
I'll work on it. All the way till Thursday.
No, I speak fluent Spanish, so. ¿También hablas español?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'll work on
All right. You guys have a good night. I think you learned something,
it.
and I'll catch up with you next week, and then we can revisit, things we
Next
learned.
week.
Next Thursday.
Oh, I thought you guys were switching off every other week.
Well, Pastor Martell's probably gonna teach about, I'll probably still be here.
Oh, okay, I got you.
That way I'll let them say, hey, this is what we talked about.
It was 3 hours.
Sounds
Oh, who
good.
knows?